Good afternoon, folks. Here is another show of real life real estate investing. I'm always excited when I have guests that are phenomenal. All of my guests are great, but there are some that I have relationships with that just are absolutely amazing. And this guest that I have today, I'm excited. I call her my sister from another mister. Our guest today is Lorraine Beato. Lorraine Beato is somebody that, I mean, if you don't know her, you should definitely want to get to know her. She has tons and tons of experience with real estate investing. I won't say how many years because I don't want to indicate her age, so I'll let her share that with you. But she has plenty of years of experience in real estate. I'll just say this: I've been doing it for 25 years. She's been doing it longer than I have, so that gives you an idea of her experience level. She's an author. She's written a book. She's a real estate broker. I want to make sure I get that right. She is the CEO of Lorraine Beato International. She's going to have a ton of information to share with us today. So stay tuned. Stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. And Lorraine, I told the folks about a little bit about you. You probably heard that I told them how many years of experience you had in real estate. So I didn't want to give away too much. So I'll give you an opportunity to share with the folks who you are. I'm excited. We got some great stuff to talk about today.
We've always got good stuff to talk about.
Definitely.
So I'm Lorraine Beato. I am thrilled to be back with Glenn. Glenn's a really good friend of mine. I've been on the show a couple of times. And I've been in the real estate industry over 25 years. I started on Wall Street, then was an appraiser, was a loan officer, real estate broker, investor, opened a mortgage company last year. So I've kind of done it all and I love it. And I tell everybody it is my drug of choice.
Yeah. It is definitely a drug, and it's something that we have to be drugged to choose. What else will we do?
I was going to say, no matter the trials and tribulations, we're still here after all of these years.
Absolutely.
So that's a testament to our commitment.
Yes. A testament to our commitment or our craziness, one or the other. So listen, I'm excited. I want to talk about something I know you have an extensive amount of experience in. Our real estate market. What's happening? Are people afraid? Are people buying again? Are people not buying again? Are interest rates driving people crazy, or are they driving them away? Like, what's happening? What should we be doing? Should we buy? Should we not be buying? Or should we just go get jobs? What should we be doing?
Well, and mind you all, this is unscripted. Okay, literally, Glenn, I never script anything. He called me this morning.
Right.
It's really they're micro markets, and it's really niched down into where you live. It's even down to sometimes your neighborhood. Because I keep hearing everybody, that you can't listen to the mass media because they're giving you national statistics.
Yes.
You have to see what's going on in your market, in your backyard, literally your backyard. Right. Take Metro Atlanta, for example. And, everyone's like, the sky's falling, prices are coming down. I'm not seeing prices coming down in the suburbs, right? I've seen some price adjustments or price corrections or whatever you want to call them. Realtors get creative so it doesn't sound bad. More in Atlanta, in the city, I'm seeing some price reductions and longer days on market. When you get into the suburbs, like where we live, right? There's nothing for sale. What is for sale is gone. The last two houses that sold in my neighborhood in the last 60, 90 days. It was the coming soon sign, and the next thing was the under contract sign. They were both under contract, multiple offers above list price. So yes, that is still happening. Now, They may not be getting 25 or 30 or 40 offers, but they're still getting multiple offers.
Right.
And I know specifically, like for where we live, a lot of it is driven by the high school. I mean, I just went to the Lambert High School graduation on Monday. No, Monday? Yes, today's Wednesday. And was shocked that the graduating class was 800 kids.
Wow.
Out of 800 kids, it was something like 569 kids had a GPA of 3.8 or above, and 380 kids, so almost 40% had it, right? Is that right? Had a GPA of over a 4.0. So I know where I live, it is the schools that are driving price.
Wow.
And people are willing to pay to get into the school districts. So it really depends, where do you live? Is there any inventory? I pull the stats at the beginning of every month. And when I pull the numbers the beginning of this month, so ending in April, in FMLS, which is our biggest MLS, FMLS encompasses most of Georgia, not all of the entire state, but a good bit of it. We have 2 months of inventory. Our prices are still going up. And it's the lowest inventory again that we've had probably in the last 4 or 5 months.
Wow.
Okay, days on market went up a little bit. Maybe they're not selling in 48 hours, but they're still selling in 3, 5, 7 days. And Lord, I remember the days where it took 6 months to sell a house, and that was normal.
That was normal, right? Right.
That was normal. So I think you have to really go and see where you are. Have interest rates affected things? Yes, absolutely. There are a lot of people that have been priced out of the market. However, those people that still really want to buy, they're finding ways to do it, or they're having to maybe adjust their price point, maybe save up a little bit more money. But at the end of the day, our interest rates are not that ridiculous. Like what we had before with interest rates in the low 2s and the low 3s was unheard of.
Absolutely.
And it wasn't sustainable.
Mm-hmm. So would you say with where we are right now, like most people understand real estate in terms of it being a buyer's market and the seller's market. And you gave us an indication earlier, which you talked about when you talked about inventory. Can you tell the folks, explain a little bit, what's the difference between a buyer's market and a seller's market? And where do you see where we are right now?
Sure. So right now we are still in a seller's market. A balanced market is considered 6 months of inventory, where you have a balance between the number of buyers and sellers. You go over 6 months, you have more properties on the market than there are buyers for. You go under 6 months, you have less properties for buyers to buy. So you have more buyers when you have low inventory, and you have more sellers when you have high inventory. And pretty much across the board, 6 months of inventory is what's considered a balanced market.
Mm-hmm. And so what I'm seeing is now, of course, I'll be honest, I look a little bit in Atlanta, every other 2-3 weeks maybe. But I'm watching Detroit. Like Detroit has been my market for the last few years. And I'm watching every day as the prices are increasing. And a lot of the sellers are kind of sticking to their price pretty much. So I'm seeing that, the market is kind of heating up in areas in the Midwest, like, specifically Detroit. And I'm seeing prices in Atlanta, for the time that I've paid attention to them. They are staying kind of where they were over the last year or so. Is that what your take is on Atlanta? Like, are prices staying where they are? Are they increasing? Are they going lower? Well, I mean, what are you seeing?
Oh, again, like I said, it really depends on where you are, right? They're really micro markets. So that, like, I would have to go and look. I just look kind of at the general numbers and like my backyard. But I have seen there's a little bit more inventory in Atlanta. And like I said, I have seen some price adjustments on properties more in like what I call like Atlanta proper, and not in the suburbs. But then I see some people just throw out this crazy number and they get it. Yeah. So if I had a crystal ball, right? If we both had a crystal ball, we'd be billionaires.
Absolutely.
And so did you say Detroit is also still going up, or is it starting to come down?
No, Detroit is going up.
So I'm also licensed in South Carolina, specifically in the Bluffton, Hilton Head area. And yeah, their prices are still going up as well.
Right, right. So, and just from that standpoint, this is what I gauge and see, seeing and hearing things like that. You have these people who over the last few years that have been saying, the market's going to crash, and then you have the group of people that say, I'm going to wait to buy when the market crash, and then they say I'm going to wait till interest rates go back down, and all these things that people are predicting. These people with little to no experience are saying that they're going to do as it relates to buying real estate, either investing or buying real estate to live in. What is your take on kind of what we've been hearing about what the expectations of the market are, and as well as the people who are saying with their lack of knowledge and or experience, I got to point that out, and what they're determining what will be the determining factor of their buying as it relates to interest rates and the market crashing. What's your thoughts on that?
Okay, sum that up for me again.
I was gonna say, I know that was a long, long
You want me
question.
to answer?
So, in its simplest form, what do you say to the people that have been saying that they're going to wait to buy when the market crashes or when interest rates go back down?
Look, at the end of the day, the people who really want to buy a house are going
Mhm,
to buy a house, as far
mhm,
as I'm concerned. If you're getting married, generally you want your own place if you don't already have it, right? If you're having a baby, you may need a bigger place to go to. If you're
mhm,
getting older, you may need to downsize, right? Or you can't handle the space. So at the end of the day, there are always going to be people in the marketplace that
mhm.
are looking to buy or to sell.
Right,
And I know what's happening now, right? I know what the prices are now. I know what the interest rates are now. I don't know what they're going to be in 6 months,
right,
right? I don't know what they're going to be in a year. Can
right,
we try to maybe wait and see what happens? Okay, if you don't have a sense of urgency to move, then it's a crapshoot. I mean,
right.
I had a young client who 2 years ago kept waiting and waiting and waiting. He waited so long that what he looked at 2 years ago is now $100,000 more. He priced himself out of the market.
Absolutely. Hmm.
And at the end of the day, I kept telling him, I was like, look, like here, I'm a data girl, right? And I go
Hmm.
into FMLS and we have something that's called InfoSparks, which is amazing. And you can get all the data back. I think the graphs or the charts, you can look at it over a span of 5 years.
Hmm.
And our prices are still going up. And I was in a new construction class last week, put on by a law firm here in Atlanta. And this came up. Somebody's like, oh, well, prices are going to come down. And they said, if you go back and I forget what year it was, but on average, real estate appreciates, about 4 to 5% a year.
Right,
If you tack all of that on and you don't take into account the dip that we had in 08, 09, our prices would be where they are now.
right. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I thought that was really interesting. I didn't do that calculation, but they said, we went back and this is what we found, that our prices would be where they are now.
Right.
And I mean, the other thing is for Atlanta, we still have such an influx of people. We've got the movie studios. That are more getting built here, right? We're the
Right.
Hollywood of the South. People
Hmm.
moving from up north, and when you compare what we have to offer in terms of size of house compared to
Hmm.
where they're coming from, they think we're a bargain. And in my opinion, that's what drove up a lot of our prices. Pretty much all of my listings that I had last year all got sold to people that were relocating.
Wow. Wow. Yeah.
And so they're like, yep, okay, we'll stroke a check. We don't care about the appraisal. We'll
Hmm.
bring cash to the table for the difference. And at the end of the day, something's worth what someone's willing to pay for it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you mentioned a couple of the things that are relative to why people buy, downsizing, upsizing, right sizing, and all these different things, and then not to mention, there are people who are graduating from college that are getting jobs. There are people who are getting raises on their jobs. There are getting people who are getting, promotions and things like that. Now, of course, there's the other side, people that are losing jobs and things like that.
Sure.
But these are, as you mentioned, being a data person, these are the things that the data points that a lot of people don't pay attention to. They hear the news,
Right.
who is unfortunately not always data driven. It's drama driven in most cases. Um, and then people don't really take into account. I mean, like the old saying is, buy real estate and wait. Don't wait to buy real estate, right? It's been an old saying for a long time for a reason.
Exactly.
So in those things I look at where people say, I'm going to wait till the market crashes to either invest or to buy. I say if you're looking at the data points over the last few years, and the main thing that you pointed out just a minute ago is the low inventory. That's one of the biggest drivers of whether or not the market is going to crash. Like when nobody's buying houses, then yeah, we should be worried. But as you mentioned, people are still buying houses, and they're buying them even with prices going increasing as well as interest rates increasing. So a lot of people miss the boat, like you mentioned. They're pricing themselves out of the market.
Well, and I drove by a new home subdivision in Lawrenceville,
Hmm.
and it was about 3-4 weeks ago, and I drove by and the sign outside said it was sold out. The neighborhood wasn't even a quarter built,
Right,
and it
right,
was sold out. A lot of new construction developers also are at the point they're not even building model homes. They're
right,
just putting up the houses
right,
because they
right.
they've got, the demand is there. And like I said, we still have a bunch of people moving here. And oh God, I was gonna say something, it just totally went out of my head. But uh anyway, but it was along those lines. I mean, at the end of the day, we still have more people that want to buy than we have available inventory. And
Yeah.
that's going to drive, it's supply and demand, right? That's going to drive your price. I know what I was going to say. And everybody that is waiting for the foreclosures, right? Because that's the other thing that the
Hmm.
media is like, oh, foreclosures are up 100%. Okay, we had a moratorium for 2 years. It's 100%
Data.
zero, right?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, that's number one. Not only that, I don't think, because I have a lot of contacts. I've got a pretty large network.
Mm,
We're never going to see those foreclosures because of a lot of the large institutional buyers 2 years
mhm.
ago
Yeah.
were already having meetings with the banks saying, we will buy your inventory in bulk.
Yes.
So
Yes.
we're not going to see them, right? They will be bought, unfortunately. And yeah, that's a whole nother ball of wax. But unfortunately, these institutional buyers, right, and these funds that have all of this money to deploy, they can just go in and I still think they're buying up middle America, but we're not going to see them. They're not going to make it to the steps because they will already have been sold.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and when you look at stuff, when you look at things like that, when everyone was talking, like many people were talking along the lines of it becoming a renter's market. I mean, okay, renters are renting from people who are buying. I'm talking to several people who are doing new construction to rent to people who are going to rent. Like people are still building houses. Like there's lots of new construction going on, and a good percentage of the new construction is going to renters.
Mhm.
So if you're going to be a renter, why not be a buyer? Especially, and these are some of the same people who are saying, they're going to wait until the market crashes to before they buy, but they go and rent a house that's a new house, a house that's been, built in under new construction.
Yeah, and
If that
I
makes
mean,
sense.
and I get the whole thing that, and I've heard this a lot. It has not been my experience, but I've heard this a lot. Millennials can't be bothered, right? They don't want the work, they don't want the maintenance,
Hmm.
they don't want to take care of the yard, they don't want to take care of home repairs. Um, okay, I get it, but you're putting money in someone else's pocket. You can't write off your rent, right? You don't have the tax benefits of having a mortgage. You're not building wealth, right? In your equity spread in your property. Um, and I mean, if that's your choice and that's what you want to do, okay, fine, go do it, but then don't complain.
Right, right. There's a question we have. Someone asked, "Where is the hottest real estate market located in Georgia?" The hottest real estate market located in Georgia. Like, Georgia is a real estate market, but
And it's a very large state. I I didn't hear this, but my husband told me this yesterday that apparently it was on the news that Gainesville, Georgia,
Mhm.
is like the fastest growing city right now. Now, I don't know if that was in Georgia or nationwide, but Gainesville,
Mhm.
Georgia is growing and it is growing like crazy. They're putting a new, oh, I can't think of the term, but it's basically a station where the big containers are going to make a pit stop. There's a specific name for it. And I can't remember what it is, up in Gainesville, all the way up off 985.
Mhm.
And it will be a direct ship to the port of Savannah. So
Okay,
I've
okay.
heard about this now already for about 3 years, like, I saw it coming, and so it has exploded. The apartment complexes that have come up, the new construction, they've enlarged
Mm,
the hospital, it has blown up, and so I see all the growth for sure moving north on that side,
mhm,
as well as moving north up to Dawsonville and, Dahlonega, because they've expanded. If you take 400 all the way up, they have expanded that now into 4 or 5 lanes. They're doing an overpass up towards the outlets. That whole area is just booming because I think, there's a friend of mine who's a loan officer who says you drive till you qualify, right? You drive as far as you got to go to qualify for a home.
right,
And
right.
but even up that way, you used to be able to buy a nice house for 250, 300. That is not the case anymore.
Wow, wow. That is something else. Uh, Mr. Pone, thank you, sir. He said, listening to these conversations is a wealth of information. Thanks, y'all. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Um, so yeah, I've heard that before. Now, the other question that I got asked a little while ago, actually earlier today, is what is considered affordable housing? Now, I know we were going to talk about some things that you're involved in as it relates to affordable housing. And well, you tell us what is let's, if you can tell us from a statewide perspective in Georgia, and then a nationwide perspective, across the country. What will be your idea or indications of what affordable housing is today?
So okay. I would have pulled my stats, which I didn't do. So I will go from my perspective, right? You hear the word affordable housing, and now that's not the PC term anymore. Now it's, workforce housing, because people have the wrong connotation of affordable housing. And for me, you know, affordable housing is something that more your middle class person can get into. They can afford the down payment, they can afford the monthly payments, and they can get into a property that they can call their own and really have home ownership, right? And of course, that's going to look very different in Georgia than like it does maybe in California, just
Right, right,
because
right.
the markets are what the markets are, right? The salaries are not the same across the board.
Mhm.
So, my daughter is facing that, right? Like, my daughter has her master's. She's in Bluffton, South Carolina. She's dying to get her first place. She doesn't make enough money to qualify to go buy as a first purchase, 450 or a $500,000 house on a single income.
Wow, wow.
Right. And the other thing that she has mentioned to me, which, sometimes we just don't stop to think about things. If you look at, take Hilton Head, for example, when she worked on Hilton Head Island, you have all of those workers, right? You have um, your housekeeping staff, right? You have maybe your kitchen staff. You have the people that do more of they're not at your executive level, right?
Hmm, hmm.
They would bus in for an hour to get to work because there is no housing on Hilton Head that they could afford on their salaries. Doesn't
Wow.
mean they don't have a job, doesn't mean that they're not happy with what they're doing, right? Doesn't mean that, it just means that their income is just not at the level to where they can live close to work.
Mm,
And so for
wow.
me, that's more workforce housing, where you're not having a bus to work for an hour if that's not your choice. It's because that's your only option.
Wow. Wow. That's something else. And I guess, like you said, it's relative, for different areas of the country. You also mentioned middle class. I'm kind of wondering, many people are talking about the middle class being, wiped out. And talking in terms of affordable housing, or what you call workforce housing. But what would you say as a price point? I mean, I know you said that, in Hilton Head, the prices are, much higher. Is it considered affordable for the general population, or upper middle class, or lower? I mean, like, what's considered affordable, would you say?
So I mean, I think, when you're, just kind of a loaded question
It
in
is.
my opinion, because it's again, it's about the data and the numbers, and I don't have them.
Right, right.
Um,
Okay,
but
okay.
I think it's more, younger people. So I mean, I've been a realtor in Atlanta for 27 years, right?
Mhm,
And over the last several years, your first time home buyer was looking to get into a house for maybe 150. You could do that, 150,000, 175, maybe 200. Then that jumped to 200. Then that jumped to 350, right? And right now you're hard pressed to find anything for 350. So again, it correlates to what, what are the salaries in the area? What are people making? What are they earning? Because I mean, if anybody, okay, perfect example. I went to a baby shower 2 weeks ago and I was talking to one of the people there and they're like, oh, so you're a realtor? And the girl's like, I just put my first offer in on my property. I'm really hoping I get it. And she was all excited was a first time home buyer a long time ago, is now a single woman. And she was really hoping her offer would get excited. So I said, show me the house. Like, let's look at this thing. You've been talking about it. You're excited. Let's see what it looks like. I hope you get it. This broke my heart. She pulls out her phone and she says, I'm kind of embarrassed to show it to you. And I was like, why? And it was because of the price point. It like broke my heart.
Wow.
And there was a house in Decatur, and I used to flip in 30032. I knew the street, I knew the neighborhood, and it was a lovely house for $189,000. I said, girl, you got that in that condition. I will keep my fingers, toes, and everything else crossed because it is not a tear down.
Right.
Wow. I mean, original hardwood floors, but they were hardwood floors that had fresh paint. They had they painted the old pine cabinets, but it was a nice house. I said, why are you embarrassed? I said, that is home ownership. That's adding to your, to your net worth. That's ownership. You'll build equity. Like, no, just be excited. So I really hope that she gets it because, like I said, I was surprised she found something that wasn't a dump that was listed for $189.
That's what I was gonna say. No,
I was like, shoot, I'll go buy it right now.
Right. I used to flip at 30032, and I remember I used to buy houses for $25,000 and $35,000 over there.
I did too. We bought a house. I think it was probably about 7 years. I think it's been about 7 years in 30032. We paid $46,000 for it.
Yes.
We rehabbed it. We sold it for $125,000. It sold last year for $300,000.
Yes.
2-1.
I bought a house. I think it was. Now I was going to say the same thing. 2-1. It was $45,000. This is one that I tried to do all the renovation on myself. I was going crazy. I did the paint. The paint was all over the place. I had to pay twice to get it painted. So tell you what my strengths are not. But that same house, like you said, it's about $300,000 and some today. Yeah. A 2-1 indicator 30032. I think it was on Richard Street.
Okay, 980 square feet. We were on Willa, 980 square feet. We bought it from the original owner who had moved into assisted living. There were 3 pit bulls living in the house by themselves when I got there.
Wow. Yeah. And then there are those that will still say, I'm going to wait until the market crashes. I'm going to wait until the interest rates go down. And you going from $46,000 house to now worth being $300 some $1,000. And then not to mention the growth that we had over the last couple of years during a pandemic where people were buying houses at, $150,000 over asking price. Most of that has cooled off. A lot of that has cooled off. However, I mean, there's still people like you mentioned that are buying over asking. Days on market were before 2 weeks before it went to
hours, right? It was hours.
Right. Well, I'm talking about before the listing even went on, people were buying it.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, like you mentioned, 6 months was regular, right? So now people are seeing 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and they're like, wow, how days on market is long. I'm just like, that's not, 6 months. I mean, now for today's market, that will probably seem like a long time for some people. But, if it's fixed up and it's nice, it's in a decent area, 45 days is not, crazy. So those are indications, again, as you mentioned, that, people should still be buying, or if they can afford to buy in this day and time.
Look, even the hedge funds are back out buying.
Yes.
They
stopped. And as you mentioned, they're buying in bulk.
Yeah. They cooled off for a little bit, but they're back.
Yes. Yeah, because even I guess even they were predicting, some fallout with interest rates and all that increasing, but things have sustained, and I believe they will continue to sustain. I mean, and, of course, people are paying rents at places where I would see. I'm like, man, like even in Detroit, houses where a 3 1s are 800, 900 square feet. A 3 1 can go for $1,400 in different places in the area, in different areas of Detroit, where these rents were before people were only paying $750 or $800. Now they're like $1,400, $1,500.
Oh, I know. I mean, my daughter is paying for a 1 bedroom in Midtown, which kills me because I don't like to pay. Well, I'm not paying it; she's paying it, but I don't like to pay rent. I like to collect rent.
Absolutely.
But she's paying 2230, I think it is, for
Ooh,
a 1 bedroom in Midtown
wow,
off Howell Mill.
wow.
And I'm like, you could have a mortgage for less than that. She's like, I know, but she's trying to figure out. She's dying to go back to DC, and she wants to land back in DC. Which, in that case, yes, it makes sense not to buy, right? It makes
Mhm.
sense to rent because you can just pick up and go.
Right, right, right. Well, I mean, for me, even if I were in a place where I could pick up and go, I'm gonna still buy because I could pick up and go and rent the place that
And
I own.
rent, yeah, if you can, right? If there's no exactly, and that's what I told her. I told her the same thing, but
Because I'm like, hey, listen, that place that I can pick up and go from will help me pay the mortgage or where I'm going to next.
exactly, and she knows that. But first year out of law school, she kind of wants to do her own thing, so it's all good.
Yeah, yeah. I
She
mean,
knows
like you
what
said, millennials and I guess Gen Z, people are now looking at things from a different perspective, right? I mean, like you said, they don't want the responsibility. They're not looking forward to the management of being a homeowner and all those things that come with it. So that's where the rental, the people that are renting are increasing because less of the newer generations want the responsibility of home ownership.
yeah.
Uh, I guess they don't see the long-term benefit of being an owner as of yet. Yeah, you have to cut the grass now. Yes, somebody's got to cut the grass now.
Right, it doesn't have to be
Well,
you. You can hire someone to cut the grass.
somebody else can, but yeah, exactly. Somebody else. I mean, I've never cut the grass where I live. I've been in my house now, the house where I am now, 7, 8 years.
Okay.
I don't even own a lawnmower.
We own a lawnmower, but we haven't cut our grass in several years either.
Right. I used to have a lawn service like years ago. Well, when the market crashed, had a lawn service, and I would go out and I'd cut everybody else's grass, and I come home, put the lawnmower up, and hire somebody else to cut my grass. So
Yeah.
yeah, but and these are the things that I look at where it's and I always go back to the mindset of some people when they look at home ownership being an additional responsibility or an additional cost. I mean, for example, you can pick up the phone and call a landlord if the water heater goes out or something like that.
Right.
Yeah, but I mean, if you pay into a property long enough and it builds equity, then you've earned, in a sense, the cost of not having to, that cost that it would probably cost you would pay to have the water heater fixed. The equity has increased, so you got your money back pretty much
Yeah.
for doing nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think a lot of it also goes to, just education and
Yeah.
educating people because that's a whole other thing. People don't know what they don't know.
Yes. Yes.
And that's why, I mean, both my kids want home ownership. At some point, like I said, my youngest I can understand. My other one is just she's chomping at the bit. I'm like, well, either you get another job, get a side hustle, we find you something to fix and flip so you can make some cash,
Hmm.
or it's just going to take a little bit of time.
Right. 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 Well, you talked about education, and that's one of my favorite topics as it relates to this business. And you have something that's coming up. Well, first of all, let's talk about the women's real estate group. Let's talk about Wired.
Okay.
Tell the folks a little bit about that. And what is
Um,
Wired?
so Wired is women investing in real estate dominate. For me, everything has to have a meaning, and it came to me like 3 a.m. I'm like, wait. And I used to run another group that was based out of California, and then the pandemic hit, and we stopped meeting in person. And I started having some ladies reach back out to me last year. They're like, "Oh, I'm gonna have my friend join your group." And I'm like, I don't have a group. And as I had more and more people ask me about it, I decided, let me start my own group. And I said, I've done it before, even though I was affiliated with someone else. So there's no reason I can't do this. So I started thinking, like I said, about names, and I put it together, and I had a really good turnout at my first meeting. We were meeting over by Perimeter Mall because I love meeting in person. I'm a people person. I want to hug you, touch you, feel you. And the synergy of being in person it's just different.
Absolutely.
Then we hit Christmas, and then January was crazy. We did more of a get together, and I then had someone that I met through another group who's like, oh, if you do it virtually, I'll attend because they're in Canada.
Okay.
So that and I had a couple of other people because I started posting some things here and there about Wired, and they're like, oh, I'd love to join. But again, they weren't local. So I took Wired virtual in March. So far, it's going pretty well. I have over like 110 people in my meetup group just organically. I never really posted it. I never pushed it. I never ran any ads. And I'm trying to move everybody over to, trying to move everybody over to my Facebook group because it's hard to communicate. You can't build community in meetup.
Right.
So I have the Facebook group now. We are international. I had a Canadian speaker. So I had that gal who attended them become my speaker last month. Then I had someone from Costa Rica join as well. She found me on Meetup. And so I'm trying to bring different topics to light. Everybody knows about fix and flipping. Everybody knows about wholesaling, and everybody knows about cash flow properties. So the meeting I had 2 weeks ago, Andrea actually talked about investing in Costa Rica. She is buying a property that is getting built to Airbnb in Costa Rica. So that was really cool, right? To just learn about something different. And so I'm actually putting on an event on June the 24th here in Atlanta where we're going to be covering different topics. I have a good friend of mine, Jasmine, who's flying in from California to talk about mortgage note investing. I have Dee, who's local, who's a good friend of mine. She's going to be talking about tax lien investing and land bank properties. I have Roger Herring, who's going to be talking about tax strategies and why you should invest in real estate, what those tax benefits look like. I've got Havana IRA with Renika. She's going to be talking about setting up your self-directed accounts, right? How you can build wealth and defer your tax implications. Or depending on how you set it up, you pay the tax now, you don't pay the tax when it comes out, which I think is another thing most people don't know about, especially entrepreneurs. Yes, you can set up your own 401k. You can set up your own, Roth IRA or your IRA, whichever way you go, and set it up where it's self-directed, where you manage it. You can invest in real estate and other assets. Then I have a gentleman coming to talk about technology and tools that we can use in our businesses. And I have Lisa Schipple, who is an attorney, who will be talking about asset protection, setting up, your LLCs. What is the right entity for you? And she's going to add a couple more things. I don't know what they are yet. So it's a jam-packed day. I think if you were going to meet with all of these people individually, you'd be paying, a couple of grand. And I think it's good, solid information. And the other thing is, a lot of times you can buy a tax lien for a lot less than you can spend on getting into your first flip. You can buy a mortgage note for a lot less than what you would spend to get into your same thing, your first fix and flip. So I wanted to do things for a shifting market that are maybe a little more attainable to some other people.
Okay. Now this link that was created, that was supposed to be Wired Mastermind, but they've made it as Wired Bootcamp.
It's fine. It doesn't matter. It's all good.
So if you are looking to find out more information on that, you can go to www.rlrei.com/Wired Bootcamp. Should have been Mastermind. I don't know why.
It's
you
okay.
did
It's
this
fine. It's all good. I've been calling it a boot camp for forever. And yes, okay. I know it says strategies for women. It's open to anybody that wants to attend, but since kind of Wired is for women, everyone's like, pick your avatar, right? But yes, it's open to anybody, and I'm excited. It's the first one. I'm hoping to maybe do 2 a year. And then, of course, Wired is free. If you just go look up Wired on Facebook, Women Investing in Real Estate Dominate. Just please answer the questions, because if you don't answer the questions, I'm not letting you in, because you can't answer 3 questions. I don't know if you'll bring value to the group. I do have a couple of men in there. So again, I want to build a group where people can really just collaborate, come together, and create that synergy, and at some point invest together.
Mhm. So and that you brought about some very good points. That's one thing I deal with. With my group, like these are just 3 simple questions that we need you to answer, so we know how we A, can serve you, and
Correct.
B, if you have service to serve other people that are going to be in the group, just answer the questions, people.
Yes, I'm not going to spam you, because I don't have like this mass email list. But if I want to get a hold of you and let you know about something, which I have to currently do through Meetup, which is a pain,
Hmm.
um, yeah, it's the best way to create. So yeah, I think I've asked, what's your experience? What are you looking to learn? And what's your email address? Like 3 questions. If you can't tell me that, we got bigger problems.
Bigger problems. And sometimes, and I know these are questions that, those of us that are educators, and I'm sure you know it, we find ways to serve the people that are coming into our space, right? And these questions help with understanding, when you say what's their experience or what's needed, and those are ways that you can find out how you can serve the people. So let us serve you. That's what we're trying to
Right.
do.
So that we're giving you what you're looking for.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. So back to Wired, and the mastermind. I want to talk a little bit more about that. So the speakers that you have coming, right? And you said that they're from a few different places.
Mhm.
Now, this, of course, I know I've talked to you about this for quite some time, and this has been your baby for quite a while, to create the mastermind. What is it that people should expect coming to this event? First of all, I mean, I know you kind of detailed some of the information in the speakers. Like for an individual that is entering into the real estate space, what ultimately would you say they should expect to have as an outcome for them, or a few ahas for them when coming to this event?
So I think it's more to get yourself educated to other options that are out there and other asset classes that are out there, right? Because I don't really know of anybody that has ever really, talked about mortgage note investing.
Hmm.
And so it's to just come expand and open your mind, learn something new, take away a couple of nuggets, because at the end of the day, that's the goal. I worked really hard to get really solid people in the room,
Hmm.
and to maybe give you that first step. It doesn't take a lot of money to open up, a self-directed IRA. I mean, you can do it with 500 bucks, right?
Absolutely.
And that kind of starts you going, and just start taking those little steps, and just come with an open mind, come network with other people, because at the end of the day, I've attended a lot of events, as you have, Glenn. We have both
Yes.
spent thousands and thousands of dollars on attending events.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
And at the end of the day, if you can have 1 or 2 meaningful conversations, those can totally take you and catapult your entire business. Right.
Yes.
And it's about, I mean, and now we have all the AI crap and all this other stuff. And it was like, oh my gosh, AI will never replace a human being.
Right.
And it will never replace the relationships that you built. Because I just connected with somebody virtually, and we talked a couple of days ago. We connected on Facebook, and now we're talking about maybe doing some tiny home projects together.
Hmm. Hmm.
I just networked with him, right? And it's because I also learned a little bit about tiny homes. I don't know a whole lot, but it's something I've been interested in. And I'm
Hmm.
always learning and growing and expanding. And if it's not something that fits me or works for me, I'm happy to connect people. Um,
Hmm.
so I mean, you'll get out of it what you put into it. So I don't really know what someone will come into. Like if you're gonna fall asleep sitting there, then no, you're not gonna get anything out of it, right? I don't
Right.
know if I can fully answer that question, but if you're ready to engage and you want to be around a great group of people, and just come and learn. I know all of these people personally. I've met them. I've worked with them. I think they're at the top of their game. And I mean, even Jasmine, she just started the female first female minority fund. She
Mm.
created a $50 million fund, $55 million fund, something like that, out in California.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so these are people that are actually doing things. They're not out there talking heads and they don't practice what they preach. These are people that are actually doing the business. They're in the business. They're not trying to upsell you into a $30,000 mastermind program. Like they're there to really, truly educate and serve. And so I'm hoping that, the attendees take that away from them. If not anything else, then maybe some new relationships that can help them get started or grow, or maybe joint venture. It's up to you to then take action.
Right. And that's where, oftentimes it's missed. The value of something like this is missed. When you talk about building relationships, and, as you and I mentioned, talking about spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on attending events or going to educational programs and things like that. I know for both of us, we've probably earned, tenfold or hundredfold from the amount that we've invested in attending events like this. Even just from the relationships that are built as a result of making these, going to these types of events, so it's, I think there's an infinite return on investment for the attending, for attending something like that.
Yeah. And you'll get to see Glenn because he said he's coming.
Yes, I am. I got to make sure I put it in my calendar. I did. As a matter of fact, I told my assistant the other day, I didn't verify if he did it or not, but I'm sure he did. Because she said she had a seat for me. So she said there's lots of seats, but they're not going to be very many seats because they're going to fill up fast. Where's the location again? That's it.
There's only 40 seats, so I'm not going to be 100 people there.
Where's the location again? I don't know if I remember looking at.
So Advana IRA has been gracious enough to sponsor our space.
Okay.
So we're using, I don't know if you've ever been there. We're using their training room that they have over there. It's by Perimeter Mall. It's Lincoln Parkway or something like that. It's over kind of on the backside, kind of by like a Lon's Bakery and Eclipse de Luna and all that. It's kind of back that way, but it's right by Perimeter Mall.
Okay. I think I have been there before. I haven't been there before. There was another guy that worked there before. I don't know if he's still with them. I think his name was Mike.
Mike Ventry. Yeah, he's not there anymore.
Right. Yeah, we still do quite a bit of things with Mike and Advana.
Yeah. So they've been wonderful.
Great stuff. And I know, are there still opportunities for sponsorships for the event?
Yep, there sure are. Just reach out to me, and I would love that. We're trying to find a lunch sponsor. And we've got a couple of sponsors, or anybody that has any connections with someone who can videotape the event and not charge me an arm and a leg. Okay. So come and learn. And I'd love to have some video, because I've talked to a couple of people, and it's just, Wired is a brand new group, right? We started in September. We're only a couple of months old. I've not really pushed. Advana was one of my sponsors, but it's not something I've really gone out there and pushed quite just yet, because it's about bringing value. But yes, Advana was one of my first sponsors overall for Wired. So was Fund That Flip. But I am looking for event sponsors, or just sponsors for Wired. I have different levels.
How did we get this far in this, talking about this, and not talk about your book?
Oh, my updated book. Yeah, I'll go grab a copy.
Right.
Flip the switch, because I'm trying to not confuse the heck out of everybody, right?
Right. So this is a perfect segment. Flip the Switch is going to be the sponsor, because enough people are going to buy that book. But I may have a connection for a video person for you, so we'll definitely talk about that offline. Okay. But in terms of the book, let's talk about the book. I don't know how we got this far talking about this, and then you talk about the book.
So I can actually grab a copy, because I've got one sitting over here. So
I do too.
I wrote. You have my old one. I updated it. So I updated in January. So Flip the Switch is a book that I wrote. Yes, I wrote it. They're my words. Because I was having a lot of conversations, and it's even more poignant now, in my opinion. I was having conversations with real estate agents, one in particular back in July of 2019 with a friend who was complaining. This was before COVID and prices going bananas. And she was tired of showing houses, and her back hurt, but she was going to have to sell houses till she was 70. Wow. And I was like, girlfriend, she's like, I'm going to be 60 next month. And I'm like, what are you, nuts? And that's when I realized that in talking to her, she had never invested in the things she sells every day. So she owned no real estate assets other than the house that she lived in. Wow. And she hadn't planned for retirement.
Mm.
So, and that's what she said. She's like, girl, I have no retirement. Like, I'm going to have to sell houses for like forever. And that really got me thinking. So I had a couple of other agents reach out to me. They saw me speak at some of the local panels here in Atlanta. And they're like, I didn't know you taught real estate agents how to fix and flip. And I thought, well, I don't, but I can.
Right.
So I sat down and I wrote Flip the Switch from the perspective of an agent and how I was a real estate agent who became an investor when I saw I was going to the closing table, managing at one time 5 renovations for out-of-state investors. And I walked out of the closing and I'm looking at my check and their check. And I'm like, okay, there's a big difference here.
Right.
So I wrote the book. It's tiny but mighty. I think it's now all of 87 pages. And I was in a Facebook group a couple of weeks ago, and they're like, yeah, but no one ever tells you how you can buy properties with no money out of your pocket. And I told her, go pick up my book, go spend the $17 because I tell you exactly how I got properties with no money out of my pocket. One, the seller paid me to take over her cash flowing property.
Right.
And they came to me because I was a real estate agent that I had told them, this particular person, probably 4 or 5 years prior, look, you're upside down. Doesn't make sense to put your house on the market. I wasn't concerned with putting the sign in the yard. I was concerned with what was right for her. And so, yeah, that's how Flip the Switch came about. And it's still very much my passion project. And I hope to attend an event in December to maybe get me some speaking opportunities because I am super passionate about it. And now agents are freaking out that, oh my God, there's no inventory. There's nothing to sell. And I at least have some cash flow coming in. I mean, is it enough to cover my monthly nut? No, but it's better than nothing.
Absolutely.
Right? So I think that's very important for real estate agents to learn how to invest in what they sell every day. And my grand dog is over here wanting to go out.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, as you mentioned that, real estate agents would be involved in selling houses and not be involved in buying houses. This is one of those things where from the people who understand, it's okay to get high on your own supply as a relationship.
Hang on, I'm gonna move and open the door for her so she can go.
Okay.
She can go out, but I won't leave you.
Okay. So it's okay to buy what you sell in this case.
100 100. Not only that, like I've built I can go sell the properties. Right. I mean, I've added, let me plug in my battery. I've added my laptop. I've added one of the properties I sold. I bought it. Stop it. Sorry. I bought it March of, hang on, let me plug in. We bought it March. Now they're all going bananas. March of 21. And, we sold it August of last year. So we cash flow the whole time. The seller paid the mortgage for 6 months while I rehabbed it, which took me 6 weeks. And we did a cash out refi, took our money out, refied, cash flowed more, and sold it, made 90 grand.
I want people to get what you just said, and I want them to understand how these deals are out there. You said the seller did what for 6 months?
Paid the mortgage.
The seller paid the mortgage on the property that you bought from her. Paid the mortgage for 6 months.
Yes.
Or him or her. I think it was her you mentioned.
Correct. And prior to that, the HVAC had been stolen and the copper wires had been stolen. So she put in a brand new HVAC system and replaced the electrical before we bought it.
Wow.
Here's the thing that real estate agents don't understand. Everyone's like, oh, I didn't ask for that. That was an offer that was made. I was kind of a little shocked. I said, sure, no problem. This person had been paying a mortgage of $890 a month for 4 years on a vacant property.
Wow.
So at the end of the day, I put almost $900 back in her pocket.
Wow. And that's the thing, those opportunities to help people in those situations. I mean, that's all it is. In many cases, a lot of people think, we're we're out here just buying houses and lowballing the sellers and things like that. But so many of these people are in situations that, and just an offer can basically change their whole situation, of what they're dealing with. You got people who inherit properties that don't know what to do with them. They inherit the responsibility of the management, the upkeep, and all these different things. And, it's those of us that are in the investment space that help them out of those situations that they don't either A, don't know how to manage, B, don't, were thrust. I mean, it was thrust upon them. They didn't know how it was going to happen for them. Those of us are in the investment space, we help them out in those situations.
And the funny thing is, I didn't go to her. She came to me.
Right.
She came to me with the first one after 3 or 4 years. And then every couple of weeks, you sure don't want to buy the other one? You sure you don't want the other property? You sure you don't want the other house? You sure don't want the other property? And then I'm like, no, because at the time, like, I didn't have the capital really to rehab all of it out of pocket. So I brought in 2 partners.
Mm-hmm.
And, we got on a Zoom, and she just had a bad experience with the property management company that had been taking care of it prior, and she just never leased it again. And literally, I went back. I had been there the first time. I went back there again, and there was still petrified dog poop in every single room.
Wow. Something else.
Yeah. So you just never know. You never know what someone's motivation is.
Absolutely.
At the time, and we took over the mortgage. So we took it over for what it was worth. I mean, it was something that I ran the comps. We looked at it. It was worth what was owed on it at the time. We just, got lucky with the way prices went up during the pandemic that we built some really nice equity.
Very nice.
And we renovated it as well.
Right. And not to mention, you got your money back out of it when you sold it. So, I mean.
Yeah, we got our money back when we did a cash out refi.
Oh, yes, definitely. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And got a lower interest rate. So we cash flowed even more, even cashing out.
Wow.
And then sold it. Yeah, because we had the rates with the 2 mortgages on it. The rate on the first one was like 4.5%, and on the second one was like 10%. So blended, it was like 7%. And then we did a cash out refi. Yeah, I think it was 4.5%. And now I still wish I had it, right? Because landlord loans are no longer at 4.5%.
Absolutely.
But, it was fine. We weren't sure if the market was going to tank or not. And my partners are like, oh, well, we don't really know. And what if the market tanks? And, maybe we'll just take that cash and go reinvest it in something else. Well, guess what? The market didn't tank, and we have yet to reinvest it in something else because the prices keep going up.
Right. Yeah. That's the nature of the business, unfortunately. I mean, and it's fortunate for most opportunities that we get involved in. Unfortunate sometimes, but fortunate in many of the opportunities. I mean, because the market has sustained and the values have gone up. So. But yeah, those are the types of deals. Like even now, I'm doing a lot of creative stuff with the properties that I'm buying in Detroit, and a lot of the agents that I'm proposing these things to, they're not familiar with the creative financing, so maybe I should bring you in and help them flip the switch.
I told you, look, little brother. I can call you little brother because you got a birthday coming up, so it's little brother. Let's go. Let's do it, because I've actually had some women from other states saying, we'd love to like start a wire chapter up here, and I'm like, okay, I haven't gotten that far yet. Let's build what's here first. But I think it's very important, especially now we have all of these people that got into these low rate mortgages, right? And a lot of them don't want to sell, or maybe that's a way, if you can find a way where, the seller will do owner financing. They have the ability to do owner financing, and maybe your buyer can get into a property. Okay, maybe instead of 7, maybe they can get in for 5, right? And it's a win-win. It's a win for a seller. They're making the spread.
Yes.
Right. They can move over, and your client is still getting in at a lower interest rate.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, this is where education comes in handy, especially for those of the service people that are, the salespersons of real estate, the agents, so many of them, and I don't want to pick on Detroit, but it is what it is. So many people that I run into as it relates to agents are not familiar with, I mean, they know what land contract is. They don't know what a subject to is. They don't know what creative financing is. I'm like, you know what a land contract is? That's creative financing, and that's simply just putting down a down payment, taking over payments, or making payments over time.
Okay.
But when it's proposed to them in with a little bit different language, it's like they're oblivious to how it works. But that's where a lot of them are being educated, and the sellers are like, yes, I'll take that. Where the
Mhm.
agents were like in the beginning, oh, the seller's probably not going to take that. I'm like, how do you know? You have to offer it to them.
Right.
And in some cases they're like, I could, like for example, I'm working on a deal. I was initially offering $70,000. Seller said no because they're asking 130. I said, okay, I'll give you 130, but I'll pay half now and half later. It was like,
Hmm.
yes, I'll do that. Like, because you're still getting what you asked for. It's just over a little bit of time. That's
Right.
all.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, your companies, your big mortgage brokers, your they're not your mortgage companies, your real estate brokerages. They're not teaching that. It's not anything that's taught.
Right.
So if you're not either looking to learn more about it or open to learning more about it or having someone say, hey, that's why I put multiple options in my book, different ways you can get into real estate investing, right? Not
Mhm.
just your typical fix and flip. Um, it's the lack of knowledge. Again, they don't know what they don't know. And so it's trying to bring that to the forefront. And, what can make this a win for your client, right?
Right.
And
Right.
in this case, it wasn't putting a sign in the yard. She said God told her to sell, and she
Mm.
wasn't cut out to be a landlord.
Right. Right. Wow. Wow.
Okay, let's
Amazing.
do this, or let's find a way, that works. It's, of course, moral, ethical, and legal.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what thing I'm running into when I've made offers with some of these agents. And he's like, is that legal? Like, what do you mean? Like, so many people are saying, people can't sell or finance houses that have mortgage on them. Some of these agents just think that it's legal. I mean, think that it's
It's
illegal
illegal.
for a seller to sell or finance a house that they have a mortgage on. I'm like, show me where it says that in the law
Right.
book.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. But Lorraine, listen, it is always an absolute pleasure to have you share your wealth of knowledge and experience as it relates to the real estate investing business. Uh, I want to have you tell the folks just a little bit of snippet again about how where we have it here on the screen where they can get the registration for the mastermind. Can I say mastermind or boot camp?
It doesn't matter. I'm good with either one. You can call it whatever you'd like. Let's go with boot camp. To me, a mastermind is more like a small group of people in a room. So we're
Okay.
good with boot camp.
Okay. For the Wired Boot Camp, you can go to rlrei.com/Wired Boot Camp. I still want to say mastermind. I don't know why. Get registered for the boot camp. And tell folks how they can reach out to you if they want to, first of all, get the book, Flip the Switch. And if they're ready to learn how to flip the switch, how people can reach out to you.
Yep. So the book's on Amazon. It's called Flip the Switch from Real Estate Agent to Real Estate Investor. I know that's a mouthful, but it is what it is.
Yes.
And then I am Lorraine Beato across all platforms, whether it's my Instagram, my LinkedIn, my Facebook. If you want to check out the Wired Facebook group, like I said, it's Wired Women Investing in Real Estate Dominate. And I'm a realtor, so I'm easy to find. Email is lorrainebeato@gmail.com. So I'm out there, y'all.
All right. All right. And Google is your friend, Lorraine
Google is
Beato.
your friend.
All right. Again, listen, always a pleasure, Lorraine. Thank you for being here today. I am going to make sure that the June 24th is confirmed in my schedule, so I'll be there. And anyone that's interested in learning how to flip the switch and level up your real estate investing business, definitely look forward to seeing you at the mastermind/boot camp on June 24th. And it's a full day, right? You mentioned it's a full day.
It is a full day. I've got it from 9 to 6. Just so we've got time for some Q&A. It does include lunch. I'll probably have some snacks for breakfast, but it does include lunch. I'll be bringing in lunch.
Okay, very good, very good. Let me ask another question, another interesting question that people are now probably wanting to know.
Sure.
For the people that are not in town, is there or will there be a virtual option?
That depends if you can help me.
Yes, there will be a virtual option.
I have had people ask me for a virtual option. I had taken it off the table um, because I was like, my family stuff. Like, I just have a lot going on right now.
Yes, yes.
And I'm like, that's just not something that I can worry about. Then somebody asked me the question again, literally over the weekend, is there to be a virtual option? Because, I can't attend in person. And so it kind of got me thinking again. And it's just trying to, find someone that can do it where it works. And how do I do that? What is I am not a technology person. What does the tech look like? Is it something that's easy to do and I'm overcomplicating it? I don't know. Do I need mics? All that stuff. So I am revisiting that because we are 30 days out. So
Yes,
I've still got a little time to try to pull it off. So with
yes.
Glenn's help, hopefully that will be an option.
There will be a virtual option. We will work it out.
Okay.
All right. Again, thank you so much. My big sister from another mister. Thank you very much for being here today. And tell my big brother I said hello as well.
You got
And
it.
we look forward to seeing you all very soon.
Okay. Sounds wonderful. Thank you.
All right. All right. Again, folks, thank y'all for watching today. This has been the Real Life Real Estate Investing Show where we talk about real life real estate situations, but we bring you real life real estate solutions. Thank y'all for watching. Look forward to seeing you soon.